I'm going to tell you about reframing and how reframing has single-handedly changed my life. And it's one of the most powerful things that you can do when it comes to building a mindset that works for you. So your mind and your body are almost like in disagreement, fighting each other all the time. And they are, truthfully. However, reframing helps them to stop fighting and start kissing. Not kissing, hugging. We'll keep it PG. Reframing is simply changing the frame that we have on things. How we view words is how we see the world. How we perceive language is how we experience the emotion attached to that language. Now, notice that it's not the actual language itself. For example, if I write here, anxiety. Anxiety is one of those words. Maybe you felt anxiety before randomly for like no reason at all. Or maybe anxiety is something that you feel continuously, maybe on a daily basis. However, anxiety is not well understood. And when we understand anxiety and reframe anxiety, we experience it a little bit different, which means that anxiety that you may be feeling at the moment. And the reason why I use that word is because anxiety is something I used to have like really, really bad. Before every football match, before my fight even recently, before any moment going and speaking on stage, randomly sitting there in my chair in the middle of the day, I'll just get anxiety. It's not until I knew exactly what it was, why it's there, and what it's trying to tell me, that I was able to reframe it so that now, I'm not saying that you're never going to feel anxiety again, but what I am saying is what we can do by reframing things is experience it differently. So anxiety isn't crippling. Depression isn't crippling. All of these other words I'm going to get onto, they don't cripple you. In fact, they can make you larger. In fact, they can make you react better. In fact, they can make you go closer to your goals. In fact, they can make you a G. Now, anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is overthinking, over-worrying. Anxiety is thinking about a situation or thinking about the possibilities of a situation that's going to pop up in the future, whether that's near future or later down the line, right? Might be tomorrow, might be 5 years. But anxiety is thinking about something that hasn't happened yet, the future, right? Now, here's reframing. Let me show you reframing 101. How do we make anxiety feel good? Well, not feel good. Pause. Not feel good, but feel better and understand it. What if I told you that anxiety is actually, you're probably waiting, oh, mate, move so I can see what you wrote. Mate, I'm writing it. Calm down. What if I actually told you that anxiety is extreme creativity? Probably make you experience it a little bit different, right? Think about it. In order to feel anxiety, we need extreme creativity to create a scenario, a false scenario in our head about something that actually hasn't happened so that we experience this false scenario. For example, you're about to play a football match. This is one I would always do. Now, I had a pretty bad injury. I broke my ankle like a couple of years ago. And every single time I'd go and play football after that. And still, sometimes now, I'll be honest, I get this anxiety about every single time I put my foot in for a tackle or every single time I turn or whatever I was doing, I would always have this crippling anxiety to my ankle's gonna snap. I would envision and remember the scenario in which my ankle snapped previously. And I would play it over in my head over and over and over again, to the point where it became so vivid and clear that it made my anxiety even worse. Now, in that scenario, in order to have such a vivid, clear imagination about something that hasn't actually happened yet, you need what? Extreme creativity. Now, these are just the flip sides. When we can reframe the language, we can actually change the feeling. And this is neurological, psychological, and thingiological. Yeah? This is in science. This is not just some geezer just standing there talking nonsense. Right? Our experience of language is so closely attached to our emotions, right? So we hear a word and our feelings are based on what we perceive that word to be. You got two people. One person hears anxiety and thinks, I can't move. The other person hears anxiety and thinks, oh, this is a moment. I'm about to grow. Whatever I'm feeling anxious about is literally going to cause me to grow. Same emotion. Oh, I need to blow my nose. Bear with. Right, I'm back. So, same emotion, anxiety. Two people have experienced it very differently. Great analogy for you. I absolutely love an analogy because it helps paint a picture. I'm quite creative, hence about all this stuff, right? And maybe you are too. It's two people. They go into a haunted house. Well, they get told the house is haunted. But it's two people. They go into the haunted house. They're both given 100 quid. Look, stay here for the night. It's haunted. Someone says, yeah, the house is haunted. Yeah, it's really haunted. Make sure you're careful and stuff because the house is haunted. Whatever. Right. One of them is super scared of ghosts and super scared of witches and ghosts and stuff. The other one says, I don't believe in that stuff. It's not real. They both go into the house. They both stay over the night. It's all going well. It's all going fine. And then in the middle of the night, there's a knock at the door. Or something falls over or something happens. Now these two people have two very different experiences of the same experience. What do I mean? Well, the person who believes in ghosts and is terrified and thinks the house is haunted is going to wake up and go nuts because they think they've seen a ghost. The other person is going to wake up, probably scratch their head, have a look, see if a pen fell on the floor, blame the wind, and go back to sleep peacefully. One got a good night's sleep. The other one was petrified, terrified, stayed up all night and didn't get to sleep. Now the same thing happened, but they had two different experiences. Not because of what happened, but because of the framing they had around the experience. Now, I'm hoping this is helping when it comes to explaining the whole reframing thing, the reframing jazz I'm trying to talk about. Because this thing's powerful. And when we know how to use this, doors get unlocked. And you become quite, I don't know, a bit like Superman. Batman. Batman's more realistic because Batman's, anyone could be Batman. Some billionaire could just decide to be Batman. You ever thought of that? He didn't have any superpowers. Whatever. Be like Batman. Anyways, anxiety equals extreme creativity. Now, the next time you experience anxiety, what you need to think about is, well, I'm experiencing an extreme creativity. Now, how I use this to change my mind, how I use this to channel this into everything, whether that's performing, whether that's filming, whether that's writing, reading, whatever I'm doing, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, training, my life, just in general, just using it. This was realizing that every time this popped up in my mind, it was the opportunity to use a superpower I'd been given called extreme creativity. Now that might be writing about this very thing. That might be speaking about this very thing. I turned on the camera. This is how I'm communicating this very thing. Anxiety is just extreme creativity. Also, another way to reframe anxiety is it's needed. Now, a lot of the time we can feel these emotions and think, oh, why am I feeling this emotion? It's horrible, get away. But actually, when we look at anxiety, anxiety is an emotion that is developed across hundreds of thousands of years since humans have been around. Why? Because it's needed. If you didn't have anxiety, you'd drive on the other side of the road. If we didn't have anxiety, a lot of us would be dead because we'd do crazy stuff. Anxiety in small doses is actually very healthy and needed as humans. The problem is when it goes nuts. So we have to understand it's needed. And then second of all, when it goes nuts, we have to understand I'm stepping into extreme creativity. Now, that's one for you. The next one. This one pops up and you knew we was going to talk about it. Depression. I should have written it first and then said it. Leave you waiting. We've all experienced a bit of it. The same applies for anxiety, for depression. When we understand it, we understand its purpose. What's it there for? Why do we have it? Why do we feel it? And what does it actually mean? Then we can start to work with it. Then we can start to experience it differently. Because remember, the way we perceive the language is the way we will feel the emotion. So what do we perceive when we think of depression? Low days, dark days, no hope, all that stuff, right? What is depression? Depression is a signpost. So, two things. Needed, or we drive on the other side of the road. Depression is a signpost. Depression is not random. I can't stress that enough. Depression is not random. It's not something that we just feel randomly. Depression is a signpost. Depression is our body and our mind showing us, highlighting that there is something in our life that is not quite right. Relationships, finances, business, career, health. Depression does not appear when all of these things are thriving and fantastic. Our relationship with God. Depression doesn't show up when these things are all thriving and good. Now, of course, all these things are not going to be thriving and good most of the time. One or two is going to be lacking at the same time because we're human and we're messed up. However, depression is simply a sign. It's showing us, hello mate, excuse me, One of these things you're meant to be sort of taking care of is slacking a little bit. Do you mind addressing it? That's it. Imagine it's just knocking on the door. Hello, mate. Can you fix that thing? Most of the time, that's what depression is around. Now, of course, there are times, bereavements. There are times, extreme situations. But I'm not talking about them. What I am talking about is our day-to-day. Now, also, what I'm going to tell you is the good side. So anxiety, extreme creativity, that's the goodness of it. Depression, what's the good side? You're probably thinking, good, depression, good, that doesn't make sense. It's horrible. Yeah, chill. I'm going to show you. Right, depression. Now, depression cannot occur unless you care deeply about whatever it is, about whoever it is. Depression cannot occur unless you care deeply about the thing. Think about that. The next time you're feeling depressed, the next time you're feeling down, and this is something that used to happen to me, and I'll explain how I experienced this and how I used to experience it and how it can still pop up now and then, right? Now, I would always feel this if I got left out, friendships, if I got sort of felt pushed to the side, if I felt really low about myself, if I didn't like the way I looked, if whatever it was, I used to look at my body and I wasn't happy with how I looked. I was fat, I was out of shape, I wasn't feeling good, I wasn't strong. Everyone I knew that was stronger than me, blah, 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 sob story, yeah? But realistically, it wasn't until I realized, actually, what, like, these feelings are superpowers here. I'll tell you why. I would label that as being in quite a depressive state about my situation. For me, this is where I was. And you may understand sort of where I'm coming from because you may have experienced it quite similar, right? Now, what I realized is that I cared really deeply about what other people thought of me, what I thought of myself, how I looked, how I presented myself. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm listing off somebody of quality. I'm listing off somebody that cares deeply. I'm listing off someone that I would like to have as a friend, someone that cares really deeply, someone that's super conscientious about things, which simply means that you care deeply about the quality of things. Now I'm listing off that type of person. Now, if you told me that's what it means, that's what it translates to, maybe we can experience it a little bit differently. So the next time that you feel depressed, realize and understand that you cannot feel depressed unless you care deeply about whatever it is you're depressed about. If you're feeling depressed about the fact that a relationship ended, that means that you care deeply about relationships in general. You care deeply about the person maybe that it ended with. So now we're going into the depths of this. And you realize and you see that, oh, my nose is running. Sorry, my apologies again. But now we realize and we see these two words alone. And think about how many words there are, right? That make us feel a little bit down or not the best. And how many words there are that have flip sides to. There's a universal law of polarity, which basically means every bad has a good and every good has a bad, right? So every time we have anxiety, we need to understand, oh, wow, this is actually extreme creativity, but it's just showing up. And I don't know really how to deal with it. It's just showing up in a weird way. Anxiety is extreme creativity. Depression, I'm really down about this thing. Actually, hold on. I have the ability to care deeply about this thing. You may know somebody, you may have a friend that just doesn't really show much emotion or doesn't really have much emotion. Now, I'm not saying one's good and one's bad, but what I am saying is that person probably doesn't have the ability to care deeply about things. That same person that doesn't really experience much anxiety, maybe that same person doesn't have the levels of creativity that you have access to. With every negative, there's a positive attached to it. With every positive, there's a negative maybe attached to it. Pardon me. And what reframing is simply about understanding both sides and choosing what side we operate from. Now, this is where I'm going to get practical, right? Reframing is about being intentional about what side we pick. What side are we going to pick? Because ultimately, here's your list of goals. And this is what I realized, how these two words were absolutely crushing my life previously when I was out of shape, when I couldn't speak well, when I had bad relationships with men, with women, with friends, with family. I wasn't operating at the level or anywhere near the level I could have and what I believe I am today. And I'm only scratching the surface. I've got so much more to grow, right? But reframing completely changed my life, and I want to show you how. This is how. Once I realized that these depressive feelings I had felt was me caring deeply, and my brain has a capacity that other people's don't. And you may be feeling the same thing, but when I realized that anxiety is just extreme creativity, wow, I've got a level of creativity in my mind that not many people have access to. Like this is almost a superpower. Like wow, like thanks God for giving me this. Thank you, because this is what it actually means. This is what I've interpreted it. The Bible will tell us this really clearly. I've not given you the spirit of fear. I've not given you in 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, I haven't given you the spirit of fear, of anxiety, but of peace, of power, and of a sound mind. Philippians 4:3 says, don't be anxious. Don't be anxious. And it means it from a behavior standpoint. Like, don't operate from an anxious point of view. You may be feeling it, but don't operate like that. Why? Because it probably means this. It means something else. Don't operate from it because it doesn't mean what you think it means. You've interpreted it as anxiety, but it means creativity. The exact same for depression. Sometimes in depression, we feel like everybody's left us and we're alone. But the Bible says God will never leave you nor forsake you. So if he's right there with us, and I'm stepping into this because ultimately, as much as I can tell you reframing has changed my life and I build an unbreakable mind, guys, I'm going to be super honest with you. If it wasn't for Jesus, none of this is real for me. I would have fell back into this, and I would have fell back into this. It's by grace I've been sustained. That this shows up as extreme creativity for me now. And this shows up as caring deeply for me now. And it doesn't show up as depression or anxiety anymore. By grace. By the grace of God. And you're probably thinking, wow, this geezer's just got all super spiritual on us. This is just the reality. I'll tell you something that's really helped me. But above all this, I'll tell you who helped me. As I said, guys, I'm a little bit run down at the moment. Put some comments in the comments to say, I'll get better soon, mate. Or don't. Check the description. There's going to be a link in there. If you're somebody that wants to get in a little bit better shape, build some muscles and lose a bit of fat around the belly. You know what I mean? Summer's coming up and all that stuff. Nutrition's got to be on point. Training's got to be on point. And it's not that complicated. I've simplified it. So I'll pop some stuff in the description. Have a look. Or don't. Blessings, love, peace, and reframe. In a bit.